coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning. I live by the river.
Hello everyone and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast. It's week 13 I think for us now and still unbeaten, which is impressive. I am Matt H and I am again with Matt V. Hello Matt.
Hello, looking forward to doing this once again, and once again we're not going to have to talk about a loss.
We're not, and unlike the last couple of weeks, we've even got a win to
I was
going to say salivate over. That might be slightly overdoing, but to enjoy. Now, before we go any further, some housekeeping. In the last pod, I talked about stepping off. I was right; it was in the League Cup. It wasn't against Sunderland. It was against Ipswich in November 2000. Believe it or not. And one of the reasons I remember it is he scored. But we lost 2-1, which might tell us all we need to know about his career, such as it was. And secondly, and this is a thanks to Pete, who is a erstwhile and possibly future member of the pod, who pointed out that the reason Jack Wilshere couldn't play against Arsenal is a Premier League rule. It's not down to the individual clubs anymore, which I did know, but I'd completely forgotten. So that's why we didn't see Jack against Arsenal on Sunday, although he was in the stand with Danny Welbeck, if I'm not mistaken. So it was nice to see him there. But anyway, so thank you very much, Pete. We'll speak to you soon. But let's leave Bournemouth for the moment then and go to last Tuesday. I can't remember, Tuesday or Wednesday now, but the PSG game anyway. It was Wednesday, wasn't it? Because it was the day after Spurs had gone out.
Yeah.
Just like to mention that to get that in.
Yes.
2-2. So advantage PSG in terms of finishing top of the group now, but it was another game unbeaten. Well, we know the importance of this game, or not. I mean, we can have that discussion as to how important we think it is finishing first or second. But Matt, your thoughts then on this 2-2 draw last week?
Yeah. Well, my memory's not great, so if I've gone wrong, do point it out. But what I remember is another very lackluster start in the first half.
Lackluster is exactly the word I've got on my notes, actually.
There we go.
There we go. So that's good. We're consistent at least.
Yeah, in following the United and Spurs game, a pretty slow tempo start from us. PSG were dangerous, deservedly went ahead, and we got the penalty, whether or not it was debatable, but we got that penalties going level, probably completely undeserved because we were really poor once again. But I think, if I remember right, we started the second half a bit better, looked a bit more up for it, got that lucky own goal. But then after that, I don't think we were sure whether to try and attack for a third or to sort of sit back and keep what we had, and ended up sort of doing neither. And in the end, we were lucky that Cavani, for all his many qualities, finishing is not one of them, shall we say. Yeah,
certainly the two games against Arsenal, let alone any other evidence this season, has been very interesting to see how he's done. I mean, I know I don't have any figures about his exact sort of conversion rate, but it wouldn't be impressive.
No. I just remember that one in particular when he was through and tried to chip Ospina.
Yes.
Which shouldn't be any great task, really.
No. Although, like all goalkeepers, he's probably taller than he looks to me, or at least he says he's taller than he looks. But yeah, absolutely, yes. That one I did fear it, but yeah, it was not a great attempt as it turned out. Yeah,
and then it went to 2-2, and I don't remember us having any sort of great grandstand finish. Bearing in mind a draw suited them much better, so. Again, I don't know if you add it to the list, if this is a completely separate game with no further consequences. 2-2, a draw home and away against PSG, not bad by themselves, but it was the third in a trilogy of disappointing performances in big matches.
Yeah, I mean it was, and as we'll come on to later, fortunately, that run ended at 3. I mean, it does seem odd that our unbeaten run is I think 19 games now. This all after the Bournemouth game, but you do wonder how, because it was a poor performance. Lackluster, I say, was the word I had written down. I also had no invention written down as well. I had that Sanchez was quite poor. interesting given what happened later on in the week. But I thought he was missing. I did this for By the Minute. I think something I noted in that was that he was missing lots of passes, which is just not what we expect from any Arsenal player, really. You expect them to be able to find each other with even fairly simple balls on occasion, but it was almost like they were trying too hard. Of course, the issue was Sanchez and Giroud starting. Or an issue to discuss, because that's not what we've got used to over the last few games. And you do wonder if there was this just one of those games, or was there something more fundamental? Did that cause an imbalance in the team? You know, when Sanchez is, generally speaking, doing so well in that position he's been in, you know, should we have just carried on as we were? Obviously, there's lots of stuff to juggle in terms of how you want to play the shape of the team, and also the tiredness and all that other stuff you want to play around with. But I don't know, I thought it was an interesting time to change things. We got the penalty. We also got a nice, amusing own goal again, which I do enjoy. Poor Verratti didn't really have much. Couldn't do much about that one, clattering off him and into the net. So it's good to come back from being behind again, as we've done sort of elsewhere this season, I think. But they're not quite the same, not quite good enough in terms of holding on. But it's a curate's egg kind of thing, you know. It's 2 draws against a very good European team. So you take positives from it, but there's also plenty of negatives. And as you've alluded to, and as we've alluded to in the previous pods, it's about the quality of the performance. Yeah. And that does seem to have been a slight disappointment. At least that was what we were thinking after Wednesday. Something to jump ahead to then slightly. It looks like second place in the group then, barring some unusual things happening on the last day. That means we could avoid, now I've forgotten who it is, Munich and possibly Juventus and possibly Madrid. I can't remember the exact various things, but Barcelona obviously still very much in the pot. Ultimately, we've probably had this, we weren't doing this pod last year, but if we had been, we'd probably have the same kind of thing. Does it matter that we finish second in the group? You have to beat these teams anyway? What do you think? Do you care that much?
I think psychologically it would have been nice to finish first as a sign to the team that they've made progress, maybe.
Yeah.
Also, the fact if you top the group, you get to play the second leg at home. I think that's important.
Although Arsene has said in the past he's not so bothered about that kind of thing. Whether he's just saying that or not, I don't know. Yeah,
and to be fair, our away form sometimes is better than our home form. But I think in previous games when we have played the home leg first, we're never really sure how we should approach it. When we've always sort of left ourselves too much to do in the away leg and end up in heroic defeat. But look, in terms of quality of teams, it probably doesn't make a huge amount of difference. We're equally capable of losing to Barcelona or Monaco, so I'm probably inevitable we will get Barcelona. There's not a lot you can do about it, I guess. But yeah, I don't think second's a bad thing. I think the main thing is we just get to the round of 16 and then take the 2 games in isolation. Because as at times we have seen this season, when we do play our best, I think we can challenge most of the teams that we could draw.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I think you have to just put up with it as it is. There's no point in complaining about it. I do agree that top of the group might have been nice sort of confidence boost. But if we end up drawing perhaps one of the slightly easier options, at least on paper, and PSG gets one of those big options that we're now going to miss, then it may all turn out to be all right. I think that the first and second leg is an interesting point as well. We'll see how that comes in. The only other thing I was going to mention about the team, which I'd forgotten, was Ramsey started instead of Xhaka. And I think, to me, that just showed that the manager wants Ramsey in, I think, as much as humanly possible. There's a suggestion he's going to play tonight as well. We'll come on to that game in a minute. So that was just another thing to note. Ramsey in instead of a game where Xhaka, who started to look quite comfortable recently, might have been the better option.
Yeah, I saw Ramsey get quite a lot of stick. I'm not sure that was warranted. I don't think he had his best game, and his passing, wasn't great. But I think I remember him putting in a lot of tackles, and considering, I think he was alongside Coquelin, who once Coquelin got a yellow card was effectively useless because he just had to let everyone run past him really. So Ramsey was doing Coquelin's job while trying to be the creative force too. I'd happily see Ramsey start as long as it is in a central role, and I'd like to see possibly alongside Xhaka just to see how those two would work together. Probably not the two you'd go for in a big game. They don't perhaps give you the solidity you need, but I'm just not sure. We've tried Coquelin with pretty much everyone in recent games. I'm not sure how well that's worked.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Interesting thought for the future. Coquelin didn't play against Bournemouth on Sunday, for example. So let's move to Sunday. Now we saw 7 team changes for the game against Bournemouth from that game in midweek. Obviously, Arsenal won 3-1. Let's get that in first, including Matt Debuchy in defence, which was a bit of a surprise. He lasted all of 16 minutes before he then got taken off, which is a terrible shame for him. Giroud this time again started on the bench rather than on the pitch, so we were back to that more standard kind of formation we've been used to with Sanchez up top, and well, it worked. It worked quite well. I certainly was already looking forward to it. Having Spurs, again, it sounds like I'm just defining myself by what Spurs do, but because Spurs, having been beaten the night before, it got that whole unbeaten run thing out of the way for them, so that was more relaxing. This time Arsenal started well. Goal after 12 minutes, a little bit of a gift from, I think it was Cook or Wilson? Cook, I think, in the Bournemouth defence, rolling it back to his keeper for Sanchez to jump onto. But then it sort of started going a little bit downhill again, including a penalty for Bournemouth, and then although we looked much better in the second half. I've zoomed through the whole game there. What were your thoughts about the first half?
Pretty much same as yours. So I was pleasantly surprised with how we started. Started with good intensity, good sort of tempo to the game. Obviously, we were gifted the goal, but I think we deserved to be ahead. And then it sort of rapidly fell apart. They got their penalty, debatable, but I'd probably say it's a fair decision.
Yeah, I did.
And then after they scored for the rest of the half, we went back to how we had been playing recently, which against Bournemouth at home, no disrespect to them, probably isn't good enough, but pulled it back together in the second half. And although they had chances at 2-1, I think it was fairly comfortable overall.
It was. I think that's a fair way of describing it. I mean, Bournemouth looked very good to me. I was mildly surprised to see they didn't have they had fewer points than I thought they did. So they're mid-ish table, but they are only a couple of points really above the potential trouble. But we, from an Arsenal point of view, we completely lacked cohesion after that early start. I thought, but there was really such a significant difference in the second half. Which was great to see. I mean, a Walcott header, there's always a rare event. And Giroud did come on and, of course, did help out with that third goal for Alexis's second, which was nice. Credit also to Cech for his sort of point-blank save from a phobia, I think it was.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones you never know how much you actually know. You know, the keeper knows about it when it's heading straight at him. But it sort of doesn't matter. He did what he needed to do, which is the main thing. I also wanted to mention Gabriel, actually. Because he came on for Debuchy. And then I thought he did okay. Maybe you're going to disagree. But also, he really did seem to embrace the fullback role. He seemed to be playing much further forward. Maybe I'm just misremembering what he's done in the past, but he seemed much further forward than he was in previous games. Possibly to his detriment, I don't know. But whenever I looked up, he seemed to be there. And whether that's a good thing or not in someone you assume should be doing some defending, I don't know. What did you think?
I mean, it was like it was the first time he'd been let loose in months. He came on and was just marauding up and down the right hand side. I'm
glad it wasn't just me who noticed that. I thought, is that? I was still thinking, is he really doing? Yes, it is him. He's doing that.
I mean, I wasn't expecting him to come on at right back. I was assuming he was going to go centre back, and Mustafi, who plays right back for Germany, would go out there. But no. Gabriel was there, and I don't know. Or maybe it is in keeping with his sometimes erratic displays at centre back, but he was bombing up and down, which I was not expecting at all. And to be fair, did a good job. So yeah, that was very impressive.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. It's good to see someone take that opportunity, and perhaps he just thought, right, here's my chance. I'm going to go for it, and he did very well. So that was 3 points. We didn't gain anything on Chelsea, City, or Liverpool, of course, because they all won. But of course, Spurs lost, just to mention that again, and Man United could only draw at home. So, I mean, maybe it's a bit early to be thinking about this. Maybe we should be looking up rather than down. But there's already a bit of a gap opening between us and fifth, and particularly sixth place. I think is 8 points now to United in sixth. So that 12 games into the season, whatever we are now, that's pretty good. We'll sort of take that kind of thing, I think, at this stage.
Yeah. If we're going to talk about, I mean, it's not over yet, obviously, but talk about the month of November.
Good point. Yes. So we've got tonight's game to come, but assuming that's the League Cup, and we would like to continue the unbeaten run, but probably wouldn't be a complete disaster if we wouldn't feel too terrible if it didn't happen. Yeah. So November sort of, we've managed it, haven't we? It's sort of, we've got it out of the way. That's the main thing, I think.
Yeah. We probably haven't played much better than we have in previous Novembers, but we've somehow got results in big matches, away at Old Trafford, at home to Tottenham, and then safely through in the Champions League. So as November's go, as an Arsenal fan, I will take it.
That's a good way of looking at it, I think. Yes, absolutely. We'll make the most of that and enjoy it and wave it goodbye and then get into December. So speaking of, well, not quite in December yet, but speaking of our next matches at least. So we're doing this on Wednesday. So later today, we are at home to Southampton in the EFL Cup. I still want to call it the Carling Cup. I call it the Rumbelows Cup or something if that would be easier for everyone. Quarter-final already. Of course, we only have to play a game or two to get there, given our European commitments. No team news yet, but we're expecting a fairly mixed team, I think, to quote Arsene. He says 90% first team, but I think that's 90% squad. So there's going to be those fringe players, Gabriel possibly, and Ramsey. I think we might expect to play potentially to get some more minutes under the belt. And then it might be on the bench. There's the real sort of, not unknowns obviously, but the sort of the people, youth teamers and others that we wouldn't necessarily be too familiar with. So might be a chance to see them. Southampton, I think, are also going to have they're going to rotate, I believe, was how it was described. So I don't know. Any I'd like us to win. I think we can win, but Southampton are obviously not a bad team. Any thoughts on this particular one?
No. It'll be interesting to see how he lines up. I don't know why Jenkins didn't play against Bournemouth. I assume he had a knock, but
yeah,
hopefully he's back. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that Lucas Perez is back on the bench.
I did, yes. Now you mention it, yes, I saw that somewhere that it was a suggestion he might start, but I'd have thought the bench might be a better place for someone to get back.
Yeah.
But...
So I imagine Giroud will start up front. Iwobi probably will come in, I guess. So I reckon there will be a good mix. I think certainly a game we should be looking to win. I reckon there's going to be, my prediction, there's going to be quite a lot of goals.
Okay.
I'm going big. I want to win. I don't know when. I think the last time we probably had a run in this was when we then lost to Birmingham in the final.
I was at that game. Yeah, that was not a pleasant day. It really wasn't. But yes, I think you're right. I think that was the last decent run we had.
Yeah, and it'll keep the momentum going. I think a final in February or whenever it is would be nice. So obviously you want to win every game, but I think we should take it relatively seriously. And I think he will in terms of the squad selection.
Yeah, it's the 26th of February. There you are. If you want to mark your card already, that's on the finals. Yeah, well, let's see how it goes. I mean, I agree. It would be great to keep momentum going. Wouldn't be a disaster if they didn't, but I absolutely want them to win. Doesn't appear to be on the TV anywhere, so people might need to come up with alternative ways of viewing. I won't say any more than that. But certainly, I believe the website will have highlights. They might even have the whole thing sort of later in the week or something. So if people are keen, they might be able to access it via that route. Well, let's move on then. Wishing the team good luck for that. But we'll go on to the last game we'll look at today. West Ham away on Saturday evening at the London Stadium, which sounds like something you get in like a FIFA thing or something like getting one of those games that doesn't have all the rights. So West Ham have not had a great start to the season. They haven't in any way, really. They're not doing particularly well on the field, off the field. They're up. Their fans are fighting each other in the stands. No one can see properly. All sorts going on. I have a friend who has a friend who is a season ticket holder at West Ham, and he hates it. He just cannot, adjust to this thing. But I suppose it doesn't help. They're also not doing particularly well on the pitch. Although, having said that, they did upset Jose Mourinho on Sunday, and for that, everyone should always be grateful. So they held Man United to a draw. I'd prefer them to be back in their slightly hopeless state come Saturday, but I don't know. What do you think? I would hope this would be 3 points for Arsenal, but obviously West Ham have one or two good players. Payet in particular, of course, is a threat. Yeah. What do we think? Should we be? Is there a particular way we need to approach this game, or do we just sort of go for it and see what happens?
I just don't know what West Ham to expect, really. I mean, obviously got a draw against United. They were close to getting a result against Tottenham a couple of weeks ago and threw that away. I think it'll be a very different game to when we played them at Upton Park.
Yes.
The crowd are obviously now in like a different postcode to the pitch, so you don't need to worry about them. It's probably not too dissimilar now to playing at the Emirates in terms of the pitch, in terms of the atmosphere. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or not.
Well, we'll wait and see about that one.
No, but I think it's certainly a game we should be targeting. And I think it's a type of game where an early goal or at least early dominance will turn the crowd against their team and probably against themselves, really.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, we don't know what kind of effect, if any, that's having on them. I mean, it's interesting going back to Spurs and playing at Wembley. I know some people have said, "Oh, that's not a reason for them not doing particularly well," but that was one of the things that's come up. Players have said, they're not used to it. It's apart from the fact the pitch is a different size, you have that. That's how different you are. You're that further away from the pitch. It's interesting if they end up playing at Wembley in league games in the future. Of course, that might not be a particularly great season for Spurs if that happens. I can't remember if that's definitely confirmed or not yet. So understandably, West Ham, all right, it's your home stadium, but it's understandable you've only played there, I guess 6 times in the league or whatever it is. So it's going to take a bit of getting used to. So yeah, probably good to get in there and play them earlier before people have sort of got used to it, compromised, whatever the phrase might be. So I mean, it would be great to get a win to keep the pressure up at the top. And that will set us up for another couple of interesting games in the following week. Yeah,
I mean, I can't keep up with all these times we're playing. We've played it pretty much every time on the weekend now, apart from 3 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's frustrating to say the least. I'm maybe I'm just an old traditionalist, but I'd certainly prefer to be playing at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. I don't mind too much on a Sunday, but it's when you get 12:30 or on a Saturday or I mean, Watford this weekend. Watford and who was it? Hull.
Stoke.
That's right. Starting at midday on Sunday. It's like, geez, you're barely awake by then. Well, we are playing. Funnily enough, next week we'll come back. Obviously, we'll discuss Southampton and West Ham, and we'll preview Basel and Stoke, which is at home at 3 o'clock on Saturday. But I think that is, as you say, it's a very rare occurrence these days. Anyway, I should probably stop my whining about sound like an old man complaining about various kickoff times. All right, well we'll wrap it up then. So we're pleased with how we're going so far. So fingers crossed we can carry on with that form and get with the games against Southampton and West Ham. So we'll be back next week, hopefully, to talk about those games. So Matt, thank you very much, and we'll see you then.
Thank you. Everyone put your house on Arsenal to win 3-1 tonight.
Oh, yes, plenty of goals. All right. I thought you were going to say more goals than that. 3-1. I thought, even more, but we'll see. 3-1, all right.
Yeah, I was originally going to say 4-2, but I thought that sounded stupid.
Stick with 3-1. All right. Well, thank you very much, Matt. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will speak to you next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.